Democracy Depends on You, presented by CNS Healthcare. It is the hope of our Anti-Stigma team that in this video you will find answers to some of your questions about voting, understand your rights as a voter, and have the confidence to exercise those rights this November at the polls and beyond. Remember, democracy depends on you.
Your vote matters. Your vote matters. Your vote matters. You wouldn't let anyone choose what kind of music you listen to, or what kind of clothes you wear, or what kind of sports you play. So why would you not help choose who's going to run your local county, state, and city offices? Your vote matters. But I also know that there are many people who feel disenfranchised and feel that their voice and their vote just don't matter. But that's not true. There are consequences to elections, good or bad, and it impacts civil rights, social justice, and human rights. Did you know that some elections were determined by just one vote? If one more person would have went to the polls that day, the elections would have had a very different consequence. So what does that say? It says that every vote matters and voting is important. But did you know local elections are just as important, or maybe more important, than the presidential? Because that's when you determine who's going to make the decisions for your local municipality, whether it's at the state level, township level, city level, or county level. On November 3rd, there are going to be 28 different races in our area alone that we all need to pay attention to. Your vote matters.
Frequently asked questions about voting.
Do I have to show my voter registration card to vote?
No. As long as you are in the correct polling location, your name will appear on the registration list applied to your precinct. The voter identification card is for your reference and is not required to vote.
Do I have to have an ID to vote?
Yes, Michigan does have a voter identification requirement at the polls. Voters are asked to present an acceptable photo ID, such as a Michigan driver's license or identification card. Please note that voters who do not have an acceptable form of ID or fail to bring it with them to the polls can still vote. They simply sign a brief affidavit stating that they are not in possession of a photo ID. Their ballots are included with all the others and counted on election day.
Can Michigan residents in jail or prison still vote?
Yes, Michigan residents confined to a jail or prison who are awaiting arraignment or trial are eligible to vote. However, residents who are serving a sentence in jail or prison after conviction cannot vote during the period of confinement. When residents are released from jail or prison after serving a sentence, they are free to participate in elections without restriction.
And now, a pop quiz. Did you know the 19th Amendment only gave white women the right to vote? It's not until the 1965 Voting Rights Act when every American citizen was given the right to vote. That's less than 60 years ago. Michigan's general registration deadline to vote is November 3rd, which is the same day to vote, and the absentee ballot request deadline is October 30th. Voting suppression is still happening in 2020. Politicians, both locally and nationally, target people of color, students, elderly, people with disabilities, and people with a criminal record. You have the right to vote, no matter what your background is. If anyone tries to stop you from voting, call the Election Protection Hotline. For English, it is 866-687-8683. For Spanish, 888-839-8682. For Asian languages, call 888-274-8683. For Arabic, call 844-925-5287. And if you're unable to call, go to 866ourvote.org. On the right side of the page, there will be chat bubbles that look a little bit like this.
Here are some voting resources.
If you have never voted before, it can be quite confusing not knowing where to begin, and the process can also be intimidating for some. The good news is it will be much easier than you thought. I am going to provide you with some easy-to-find resources for voting in the state of Michigan. Let's take a look at the Michigan Secretary of State website at the Voter Information Center. Under voter information, you can click on these various links. You can find out who your clerk is, where's my polling place. If you're voting from home, you can click on these various links to find out how to vote from home and to do an absentee voting ballot. And if you're not registered to vote, these various links down here will lead you to the information to answer these questions. If you have a disability of any kind, we have more information to plan out and simplify your voting experience. So when November 3rd arrives, we are all ready to have our voices heard.
This has been presented by CNS Healthcare's Anti-Stigma program, giving you the knowledge and resources you need to feel empowered on Election Day. If you would like more information about CNS Healthcare, our phone number and website is in the description below, along with all of the resources we used for this video. Remember, your voice and vote matter.